Hello and welcome back to GRC Uncensored. Today, I'm not totally sure what we're going to talk about. We'll figure that out here in a minute. So instead, we're just going to skip right over to introducing our wonderful guest. So for that, we have Z, our CISO expert, over at a little company called Wiz, which I'm pretty sure you are familiar with. But he also has a strong set of skills and background in cybersecurity and GRC. So not just working with CISOs or being a CISO whisperer. So that being said, Troy, are we going to start with the usual or are we going to sprinkle something else in here?
You ruined it before we started, but honestly, anyways. So we ask every guest, what's the last thing they asked ChatGPT or a similar LLM tool? Can funny, business, personal, just make sure it's appropriate. It doesn't have to be appropriate. So whatever you want to share, share away.
Sure.
This is the most important part of our episode. This is what people tell us they like the most.
Of
I would
course.
prefer if it's not appropriate.
Oh, geez. Okay. I do what I do. I'm going to keep it appropriate because I enjoy my work, but thank you for having me on. Two things that come to mind. One, I'm working with some of my fellow coworkers on finishing up CTF. Wiz has a monthly CTF challenge where there's a leaderboard. There are different ways of capturing the flag through a terminal, using internet resources, ChatGPT and Gemini and all the AI tools, trying to figure out the flag. So for the last one, I was asking him, like, why did I do this again? Remind me what this line of code does, because to me, it just looked like Linux gibberish. Then I realized, oh yeah, this thing does that. That's why I did that, and to help a coworker find a flag. But earlier today, I was actually looking to validate some of my own analysis. I was looking through a certain framework, noting which controls are technical, non-technical. And then I said, okay, Gemini, what do you think about this? What category do these controls fall under? And then there was a huge discrepancy between the two. So I had to figure out, am I looking at it the wrong way? Is the AI looking at it the wrong way? And both of us were wrong. Back to the drawing board, since just like anything in compliance, you can do it 10 different ways and nobody's right about how you do it unless your auditor tells you that you're wrong.
Wait, what was the framework?
Oh, geez. It was, give me 1 second.
It's probably some obscure one that Wiz has to comply with because they're in 85 different countries or something.
Yes, it was. I was looking at NIST AI, RMF AI 100-1 version 1.0.
Okay.
Rolls off the tongue.
And you were, okay, so you were taking controls from your common control framework and trying to see which ones lined up with NIST AI?
So looking at the criteria and looking line by line of what NIST says versus is it more of a policy thing? Is it more of a process thing? Or is it like a technical, like you have to have a technical control that satisfies it on top of any policy and process around it? Like a basic binary look at it, since what I want to focus on, and this is for some of the research I'm doing, is focus on, is there a group of different frameworks, different regulations, laws, whatever, and that can be satisfied by focusing more on the SDLC process and controls within the engineering environment versus general business, or something on the post-secure offering, post-SaaS offering, where you want to focus on making sure that the efficiency and the resources in the cloud are secure rather than your development and your business.
You did a really bad job.
It's fun, but one thing that really put me off and also really disappointed me is just like the sheer number of different frameworks that are all related to each other, and all of them have commonalities, but there's one unique thing, one difference, and that creates a whole slew of mess. And you try to look at common frameworks, you try to tie it back to ISO or SOC 2 so you can feel sane. At the end of the day, it just becomes a mess. And it's, instead of going, we have this thing, what's the gap? You go, that's taking too much time. Let's focus on the new thing that we need to do, because it's much easier going from scratch than trying to pair it with something that you already know. And the acronym soup of different frameworks just keeps expanding and expanding. And I guess it keeps all of us employed, but at the end of the day, does it keep us sane?
How many frameworks does Wiz have to comply with?
Currently, Wiz is complying with 4 different ISOs, PCI, SOC 2, Type 2 plus HIPAA. And then we have several different other efforts that we are self adhering to, whereas for these we have attestation. The work I'm doing is more for our product, and to one of my jobs is to work with our product team to enhance the compliance capabilities of Wiz itself. So making sure that what they're putting out there, what they are associating with the different controls makes sense, and if there's a different way of looking at a control that might be technological in nature, but it's currently not mapped out. So basically validating the abilities of the software itself.
Gotcha. So you use Wiz to keep track of all these different frameworks internally, or no? You just use spreadsheets?
We have a GRC solution that we use to combine everything under the sun, so we can have one control that is mapped out to different criteria of part of these different frameworks. So that's more from the from a compliance perspective, but from a governance perspective, our software is used to more on the governance and risk side. So we can focus in on looking at different like slices of our infrastructure to see where the risk is and make sure that governance, i.e. we should have X in place across our infrastructure, is maintained, or, hey, there's a risk because this cloud rule that we have in Wiz is not being met. It's failing because somebody forgot to do X and Y here, and that's a risk. It goes into a risk register. It's governed by a policy saying, hey, you should have X and Y in place. And then we have a process around it to make sure that all of our systems meet the needs of our governance program.
Nice. Kendra loves all this. I could tell. She's super excited.
I do actually, and I am a customer of Wiz, so I am familiar.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh.
And if you have any unfiltered feedback that you can provide, let's save that after.
Right now. I want to hear it right now.
Uncensored, unfiltered, right now. No, I would not do that.
Kendra, we asked this last person too, but I'm going to ask it again. We started off with, how do you feel about auditors? I love that question.
Ooh.
Like my new favorite question, by the way, in general.
So I would say there's a difference between the mentality between an auditing firm, the sales motion that you interact with, that are warm and fuzzy and give you all the good feels and good vibes, and then the actual 20-year-olds that are going to be doing the work that you're scratching your head because they're just not there themselves in terms of understanding the technology, ability to move forward, and the level of professionalism. Now, of course, there's exceptions there where you have somebody who's more senior that knows what they're doing and everything is great. So I would say the latter two feed the how you feel about a particular auditing firm. But at the end of the day, it's more the touch points that you have with the management and the auditor itself make you go, this is somebody I want to continue doing business with, or there's no way in heck that I'm going to spend X amount of money to deal with this nonsense. Be it the software they're using, the way that they're interacting, their timelines, and so forth. And given that I work with so many different auditing firms, I would say that every one of them has a different feel, a different vibe, if you will. And finding one that vibes with your business, the way your velocity goes a long way. So if you find yourself in a room with suits that are moving at speeds of a computer from 1997 versus somebody who's nimble, that understands modern technology, and it's just, oh, AWS, I get it. I don't need to ask these stupid questions. He goes a long way. But again, if your tech stack is something legacy, you might feel better with the suits because they know what they're doing versus the new tech cloud native folks will not understand the old tech stack. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that finding an auditor that fits your vibe and fits the needs of the organization goes a long way, and getting as much of that exposure during the sales process will make any future audit much easier because that match, that common goal, common mantra that you can align to.
TJ, before you say something important, I think you need to coin vibe auditing this.
I like that, vibe auditing, but that's how I find my clients. I have to vibe with them. That's the first thing. If we don't vibe, whatever.
Yeah. Vibe and jive. I feel like jive is more your...
Jive auditing?
Jive instead of... Jive. Jive auditing. Bring back
That's
jive.
for the suits. That's for the suits, Kendra. They jive. This is going to be a great one. I could tell already. Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about SOC 2?
Oh man,
Honestly,
Not
tell me about
I'm
SOC
taking
2.
a drink. Come on, Troy. I'm a
it's a gift that keeps on giving, right? Like back in the day, SOC 2 used to mean something. Oh, we have SOC 2 Type 1. Holy moly, like we're putting on the big boy pants. We're going after the enterprise. We're no longer SMB. Now it just becomes every mom and pop can have a SOC 2 if they have the money for it. Somebody will write the policy. Somebody will implement the least amount of technology possible to get that check mark. And AICPA is just giving out the abilities to validate the SOC report, those auditing firms to give them the power to check for the controls themselves and issue reports so easily. So back to going to the vibes, you're looking for an auditor that not only has vibes, but it has the vibes across the industry so that you know that your vibe check is correct with the rest of the industry and you hire somebody who knows what they're doing instead of somebody that you find in an ad on a website or through like a cold call saying, hey, we can have a SOC 2 in 36 hours ready to go. I would say that because of that change from meeting something to just being so commoditized, especially as every single thing now is a SaaS, it's out there on the internet, the value of a SOC 2 report goes out the window. And that's why TPRM teams are asking for more things from existing companies because the SOC 2 is not meeting the bar anymore. And that's why customer assurance teams are jumping through different hoops because now they can't just send over a SOC 2 report and penetration test. They have to answer the questionnaire. They have to show evidence for the various things. So it becomes from a necessity to operate to the bare minimum, but at the same time, it no longer relieves any of the headaches that we once had maybe a decade ago when SaaS and doing things on the internet was a new way of software engineering.
So we should just stop doing it altogether.
Yes, let's go with another acronym, create another framework that new set of controls, new set of criteria, make it as confusing as possible. Let's take the high trust model and just make it about security only, no healthcare, and just make it as difficult as possible. So that way, every middle person along the way gets their fair share. So it's very capitalist in that way. And I think that's the way to go. Honestly, that's the only solution right now.
I have now decided that I have made it my personal goal for every episode to make sure that Troy gets just this much closer to having an ulcer.
No, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. If this is how the market feels, and people should know about it, and I hope that the AICPA is watching these podcasts or looking at my posts because I keep telling them that that we're at an existential crisis almost at this point, right? People are feeling this way, and I don't find the guests that don't like SOC 2. I just find a guest, and they always don't like SOC 2. So I don't go searching for the ones that have a particular opinion. It just is what it is.
Troy's Craig
trying to change that.
Do you want to as much as we do?
What'd you say?
I said your Craigslist ad is, do you hate SOC 2 as much as we do? We want to hear from you.
But Craigslist, is that still around?
It is.
Wow.
Let's ask ChatGPT. It's faster than going to the website.
It does hurt me when someone says it, but it's okay because it's cool. Like, it needs to be said. I wish more people would speak up I think the way it changes is more people keep speaking up or it just goes away. And
that's the thing. I would say that there's a place for it, right? It's the bar to entry for most companies. If you don't have a SOC 2 Type 2, there's a lot of companies that will not look at your product because it shows that the company didn't put the least amount of effort in order to meet those necessary safeguards. Now, getting a SOC 2 report is easier than ever. However, there's a lot of startups that are still struggling because they focus a lot of efforts on the go-to-market motions, on the product itself, marketing, and so forth, but not the necessary needs to meet that security check mark. And I think it's becoming more apparent that, okay, so maybe we shouldn't hire our 50th go-to-market lead. We should hire a security person or allocate these funds to get our security so that way we can help the sales motion itself. So there's still going to be a market for SOC 2s. And I think a lot of the companies that are offering subpar reports based upon the timelines and the price point, they're going to get shunned because every company that uses them is going to get that TPRM team is going to reject them based upon the vibe check of that company. And a lot of them, you can do a simple search and see what they're offering, what their sales pitch is. And when you see a boutique shop that is a group of individuals that are doing SOC 2s, that's one thing. But if somebody's selling it on a price point or a timeline that is insane by anybody in the industry, those are the ones that are going to get shunned out by TPRM team that knows what they're doing. However, you got to have a TPRM team that knows what they're doing, and not the CTO, who's one of their many hats, is to be the security lead or the security leader of that organization, and they don't know better. They're like, oh, it's there, check mark, good to go, whatever. Let's not get started on the whole aspect of security is one thing, where there's like a Pandora's box that has been opened in the last year or two on the whole AI abilities of that SaaS application, and no way to basically give that assurance from a AI perspective that is, I would say, even more riskier than standard controls on encryption and access and so.
So what you're saying is I can't even think of the latest company that I saw that was, what was it, 15 hour? Was it 15 hours or 15 days to SOC 2?
Hours.
15 hours. So let's all combine forces right now and come out with 14-hour SOC 2.
Well,
It'll be just like that scene in Something About Mary, where have you ever heard of 8-minute abs? It's 1-minute abs.
I feel like I commented on that post. I was like, it's like name that tune. We're playing a game of name that tune. I could do that SOC 2 in 14 hours. That's what the deal like to me. But what do you, I guess, I don't know what Wiz does, but maybe you do. Do you know, I don't know are you involved with TPRM or Wiz?
I used to own TPRM before one of my colleagues.
Oh, okay. So did you actually like reject reports ever from vendors based on the CPA firm, or did that?
Yes. In the beginning, we had a process that was very bespoke to the size of the business. We onboarded a TPRM tool to help us out to validate certain aspects, tie it into the data that we have from external sources, and also help us with the analysis. And a part of that still included a manual review. And if there was ever a firm that was not one of the ones that most of them came from, either Big Four or some of the bigger companies, I would have to look up and see who is Bob and Sons LLP that did this report. Who are they? How many people are, and just check who they are. But over time, we put in different safeguards to say, okay, that SOC 2 might have been okay, but it's no longer okay based upon the scope and the risk of the application. So we would either validate by examining the questionnaire answers and diving in deeper to ask for evidence of how things are done, or focus on looking at the penetration test and using that as a check of how many findings they have, how many findings they had last year, and looking at, okay, the adorable that you're giving me like this pen test, but show me last year's. I want to see what you evolved from. Oh, you don't have one. Okay, so risk goes up. And using other means of checking their ability to securely process our data, like over time, those gates went up and certain thresholds had to be met in order for us to even consider it over time. But I would say the most difficult thing there was getting that engagement, getting that feel, especially with smaller companies that have a SOC 2 auditor that nobody has ever heard of before, I haven't heard before, and getting them to engage and help close out the gaps that we have in our questions or show us evidence. Just because the SOC 2 report was very binary. Do they have encryption in place yet? Okay, what does that mean? What are you using? What technology are you using on the back end? What are you using on your endpoints? Give us more information, because the SOC 2 didn't go deep. And what I'm also seeing is a lot of SOC 2 reports use canned controls across every different customer that an auditor works with. So I understand the reasons for that, being that it's much easier. You don't have to align each control that the customer comes with to a different criteria for SOC 2 or whatever. But it also remove some of the language, some of the uniqueness of those controls if a company has those controls in the place right now in the first place. But it always helps to say, okay, so this control is very basic, very high level. I need to go deeper because I need to understand what is happening behind the scenes. It's great that an auditor says that everything is great because they've seen the evidence, but I do not trust that auditor. Therefore, I have to validate. So trust but verify X, 10% of all of the new vendors that come in. It can be challenging, but it is necessary in order to keep the enterprise safe from a supply chain perspective.
How long has it been since you've seen a qualified opinion on a SOC 2 report?
Ooh, I put my TPRM hat down nearly a year ago, but I would say that I think one comes to mind, but the risk was so low that it was just like, hey, it's fine. It's whatever. We're not using it for anything significant. It was for a vendor that wasn't related to our customers, but it was noted. And we said, okay, we expect clean SOC 2 next time and put it in the contract and so on and so forth. So even though the risk is acceptable, I think it's a great idea to always push back and push your vendors towards a better state if you have the ability to leverage the contractual terms to make them better. Because if nobody's pushing them, they're going to get away with yet another year of qualified opinion or yet another year of a pen test with a bunch of critical findings and things that really shouldn't be in your external report.
For sure. Yeah, I just recently came across one and it absolutely blew my mind. I didn't realize people were still issuing qualified opinions.
It's a check mark. Do they have us too? Yes. All right. TPRM process done. All right. Call it in, boys. TPRM is becoming such a low effort process for some of these businesses that don't have the capacity, the knowledge, the funding in order to validate their vendors. And I've seen some smaller startups that are just only focusing on tier 1 vendors, their highest risk vendors, either their sub-processor, in addition to their back office tooling, to others, the other vendors, we don't care about it. Oh, sales is using it, marketing is, who cares? There's no risk there. We're just focused on the core. But at the end of the day, one thing breaks here, it can lead to a break there, and not looking how everything is related and not using the same lens across all of your vendors, despite the fact that some might be less riskier than others.
So do you still require all your vendors, SaaS vendors, to have a SOC 2?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm still winning, Kendra. Very
All
well.
right.
There is no, I'm okay.
Hey, still trying to support you and your life choices. And I want you to be the change agent for SOC 2. Bring back SOC 2, make it great again, or whatever.
It might not be the best. That's what we got to go with, but they're shut down right now, as far as I'm concerned, the government in the U.S.
And the SOC.
Kendra, you don't pay attention to that. Kendra thing, you probably don't pay attention.
Yeah, I'm in Canada. Even when I lived in the U.S., I didn't do politics. So I'm sure I'm not going to do them now.
It's funny with the shutdown. It was funny because we don't like to be political, but I just thought this was funny because they shut down. FedRAMP 20X was supposed to have a meeting today, and they sent out a message saying, due to the shutdown, we can't have our scheduled Zoom meetings, so we'll have to reschedule when they come back. So FedRAMP 20X, that's can't do anything. Government shutdown. So, well, don't go buy cloud security right now. Go in the government. Can't even have Zoom meetings.
This is why we can't have nice things. It's the government. It's the government's problem.
Yeah.
If the government wanted to do one good thing for us, they would all get together, all these countries. They'd have a week-long summit over cocktails, and they would say, you know what? We're finally going to align on a universal data security policy standard, privacy standard. Okay.
You can't even get the states to do that, though, in the United States. How are we going to get...
Hey, I have a dream.
I thought you were going to say they would say SOC 2 should be required by every company in the entire world. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Then it would just get even more commoditized and cheapened. Come on, Troy.
SOC 2 in 15 seconds.
Oh, my. new business objective for
Yeah.
sure.
You just dump all your screenshots and all your policies, and AI just spits out a report with an opinion. You just call it a
I
day.
feel that is what these tools, these new ones.
Yeah. Honestly, we're probably getting to the point though of people just like typing into ChatGPT, can you please issue me a SOC 2 report? And people don't look at them. Like they literally get them. They say, oh, I have this piece of paper. I don't need this anymore. It could have any auditor's name on it. It could be a draft report. That's my other favorite, Troy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Remove the
that's
watermark, print a PDF, call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. And it would just be done.
But that's the thing. There is a link between the volume of pages, so the length of the report, with how a TPRM team looks at it, because one of the studies one of the auditing firms did basically said that they're looking for more volume in a report. Their customers are looking for more volume. And that's why you see auditing firms just repeat a whole bunch of information multiple times just to get to over 50 pages. But at the end of the day, like, the volume of a report doesn't speak to the quality of the security or any other trust criteria that is happening behind the scenes. So you can't think of somebody going, oh, it's 50 pages. We can't have none of that. I need a report for 100 pages. And Troy, I'm not sure if you ran into this with your clients where they're expecting a certain chunky report to go through, or this is more felt by others.
No, we actually like to do the opposite. We try to make our reports as easily digestible as possible with the core information that's needed without repeating controls. In fact, we don't repeat controls. We just list a control once and then map it, all the criteria maps to, we list it. And then under that, we list the criteria and all the controls that map to that criteria once. So it's just two tables, listing the control, listing the criterion once.
I like that. I like not having to read the same thing over and over again, especially when, let's say, information security policy is used for 100 different criteria. Cool. You don't have to remind me that you checked the InfoSec policy here and here and here. I get it. I understand that it's needed to be done, but summarize it in a way that it makes sense. And like I'm going to go on a tangent here, but like the whole idea behind, like, you have one criteria and you can have 1 to 40 different controls that satisfy it. 40 is a little too much. At that point, like,
wait, you've seen a report with 40 controls mapped to one criteria?
I saw one with 30. I'm rounding up. It's insane. And it was something regarding the risk management process. And it went into, it talked about the policy, the process, the risk register itself. The control was regarding how many meetings there were to update or inform management of the risks. Then it went into different controls of how they measure risk against different infrastructure, different people. So basically went into background checks. It went into their endpoints, and they had 3 different MDMs. So like each one of those.
Every control under the risk assessment.
Yeah. Right. It's focus on the first 3. Got it. You have a process. You have a risk register. Like, pat on the back. You got this. But the fact that it just feels like filling pages with repeatable things, because later on, the background check is using the same control. But instead of saying, hey, we have a process where each new hire goes through this background check process, it was listing out different parts of the background check process. And
disqualify that auditor right away and be like, okay, I can't rely on this report. This was just, even if it's right, it missed the whole point of SOC 2. I'm whatever.
But that's the thing. To Kendra's point, like, to go through all of these motions and truly doesn't make sense to have it so extensive, because it really doesn't close the gap. It doesn't bring value. And at the end of the day, somebody sees it and they're like, yep, this is good. I don't need to read through this. And those that do, that really love late night reading sessions in bed to fall asleep to and read SOC 2 reports. I'm not saying that I do it, but you really don't want to have that rage moment just before you're dozing off. But in reality, like, I'm seeing more of this process of, you get a SOC 2 report, you toss it into an AI tool to spit out some output, and then you copy and paste that into a Jira ticket or what have you and call it a day. There's no human involvement. You're just moving data summarizing from one thing to another. And it doesn't really do anything besides getting that check mark with a SOC 2. If you sit down and read it, you find those qualified opinions. You find those
tidbits.
And then it leads you to ask questions. Why is this auditor doing this something silly? Why is this customer or this vendor going through all these pain points? Do they really have 37 control that I actually like look into on an annual basis?
I have this like image in my head of just like one little robot doing this SOC 2 report and using his little robot hand, giving it to another robot and then ingesting it and then spitting it.
You were trying to make some good video clips today. I like
nonsense. But it's like we're doing SOC 2 for other robots. The robots are doing SOC 2 for other robots. This is the world we're moving into.
I do it for the love of the game.
I'm willing to bet that somebody's going to start putting in like injection prompts into their reporting, be it a SOC 2 or pen test or what have you. So that way, if somebody tosses into it, it breaks it. Just last week, there was a fella that put a prompt into it so that recruiters would spit out a recipe in their emails. I'm willing to bet that there's going to be a way to just jam any AI processing tool so that way an actual human like has to put in the effort to review.
You should do that. You should do that, Troy, and make it so if your report gets put through like a ChatGPT, it spits out something like just some either nonsense or, hey, you didn't even read the
idea, like
of what it is when you did not even read this. You just copy and paste it.
Yeah, that'd be good. My customer would not like that though.
I'll laugh.
Old style. You just put it in the text is white so it matches the background or color whatever's the background. Human can't see it, but an AI processing will.
Yeah. I love it.
Encryption.
Did you hear that was how like teachers were catching students? By the way, like they had put some white text on a document, like the computer assignment, and the kids were copy and pasting just the whole screen, pasting it into ChatGPT, and it would spit something out, and they would put some prompt in there, say this word this many times or whatever, and if they found that's how they realized that cheating, I'm like, I would have failed high school.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I already barely passed, so that would not have been good for me.
That's a really good idea. Though I don't mind if people use AI to help digest a report, actually. I just have concerns if the AI doesn't understand what the report says either, then we're at square one still.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vicious circle, but I have high hopes that Troy Fine and Fine Assurance is going to change the world for SOC 2, make it great again.
You see my posts? I'm trying to change the world.
I
trying
know.
to do it one post at a time.
You just got to keep harping on the AICP people. Do you have a direct line now, or?
No, I do not have a direct line. I'm not. No, I do not. No, the answer is no to that question. I do not have a direct line. But maybe they know me. Maybe they're watching my posts. Maybe they're listening. I see them trying to make some moves today. I don't know if you saw my post today, but the peer review committee is like trying to take a hard look at emerging areas. And I'm hoping that they decide that SOC 2 is an emerging area that is a high risk to the profession, and they're going to try to do something about it. So I'm hopeful, but I'm hopeful that things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
We just have to hope that bureaucracy and politics don't get in the way, which is hard. Yes, I know. I know.
Do you think that there needs to be like a higher barrier for entry? And Z, I think you alluded to that like at the beginning of our talk. Do you think there needs to be a higher barrier of entry for the CPA firms that are being given the permission to do these audits? Because it seems like I get like every audit report I get now is a different audit firm. You used to have your big 8.
So I think it's double-edged, right? You want to create a market where anybody with the capabilities can enter it. And it doesn't have to be locked into a certain size company, certain size enterprise that can service these clients. So there needs to be something that is achievable by the little guys. But at the same time, there should be some more ability on how frequently you are actually tested for the quality of your work, rather than, I think, Troy, one of your posts, you were saying like it's every 5 years or something as ridiculous. 3 years. So you have 3 years just to make as much money tossing SOC 2s left and right, close up shop, rebrand, weird Bob SOC 2 shop to Joe SOC 2 shop, rinse and repeat. There's no penalties for it, right? And you're destroying the value of SOC 2, you're pissing off a lot of people in the industry. And by the time they're at their new place and they're trying to get a SOC 2 auditor, you're like, oh, I never heard of this company before. I got burned by Joe's before. Now I'm going to use Bob's, and not knowing that it's the same thing, same people, same process, same nonsense. One thing that I would say is that I wish that there was more, if we had a SOC 2 equivalent that was driven by a committee that is focused on security, privacy, and AI capabilities to an extent, and not run by accountants with that connection to security. Where SOC 2 is like in my opinion, it's like an unwanted child, because they're going to put all the effort into the financial controls, and SOC 2 not so much. But if we had, and I joke that high trust, but only for security, if we had a model like that with a feedback mechanism, an ability to show progress over time, to replicate the model, but give it more stringency, more connectivity to people that know what they're doing, and ability to evolve faster. So that way you're not waiting 7 years to catch a technology that has been around for a decade and put it as part of your controls, but it can evolve. The auditors always have to be up on their game, understand how different models work, how just-in-time provisioning, how CI/CD works, how different ways of new modern technology on the SDLC side works, instead of going, okay, explain this to me like a 5-year-old and asking the same question five times in a row, even though that technology has been around for a long time and everybody's using it. So I don't know, maybe it's that, Kendra, back to your, if ever country aligned on something, it would be, maybe the changes from within. Maybe we get a bunch of eggheads across the security industry to say, enough is enough. We need SOC 2, but better. And everybody will do it, and it's going to suck less. Maybe that's my dream.
Yeah, for sure. The barrier for entry to me for CPAs being able to do an audit on SOC 2 should be, prove to me that you can do this without looking at check marks in an automation platform.
It is. The only barrier to become a CPA firm is you need to have a CPA. Right. Then you register your business in the state and submit your paperwork to the state. It's proving you're a CPA.
And then you go get partnered up with one of those automation platforms, and you offer a SOC 2 audit for $4,000, and you do it in 4 minutes. And
yeah, I mean,
this problem.
The barrier to entry will probably never change, because that's handled by the states, and the states don't
care.
They're trying to license doctors, accountants, lawyers. Like they have to follow a certain process. It's going to be hard to single out of CPA firms and say, now all you have to do this, but everybody else, you only have to do this. So it's more like, when you look from that perspective, you look at all professionals and understand how are they licensed at the state level, because that's really where the barrier comes from at each state. Having said that, though, it's the oversight that needs to be better. And that's where I think, like, right now, peer reviewer, I can go find my own peer reviewer. They do my peer review. I send it to Pennsylvania and the AICPA. They look at it, and if it's approved, they're good. But they have this national peer review committee that is like the AICPA National Peer Review Committee. So if you do like PCAOB audits for like public companies, financial audits, technically your peer review has to be administered by the National Peer Review Committee. So it's like a centralized peer review. You still find your own peer reviewer, but the National Peer Review Committee reviews that peer review, and they do a deeper dive. So it holds the peer reviewers more accountable, right? Because they're reviewing important stuff, supposedly public statement financial audits, right? I think SOC 2 needs to be centralized in that from that perspective. And if the National Peer Review Committee is taking a look at firms that are doing SOC 2, and we all have to go through them, and the peer reviewers know that somebody's looking at them more closely, and the peer reviewers have to have certain experience, I think that could help I'll put it that way.
Is ISO that scrutinized from a peer review standpoint?
So ISO, you are accredited by your accreditation body. So there's probably 3 or 4 in the US for ISO 27001. Some are better than others. So like just assume like some are more stringent than others. They actually accredit you initially and you have to go through all this process. And then they do like a witness audit every year. So they actually watch you do an audit and make sure you're doing it correctly. But from what I've heard, you just send your A team to do the witness audit and then every other audit's whatever. So you didn't hear that from me, but there's ways around it, right? But it is bad. It is one way to do it, but there's so many CPA firms out there. It's very hard to have the ICPA be like the governing body that appoints peer reviewers and says, go review all these people. Like they have so many CPA firms they have to monitor, right? It's not just people doing SOC 2. It's financial audits. It's all these other things, government audits. Like it's a lot of firms compared to ISO accreditation body. So that's my logical solution that I hope they're working on. It's the only way I think it's the only way at this point to improve it.
You got my vote.
Good. Let's go.
But again, the issue is that it's the CPAs, it's the accountants that are driving their whole process. The whole side of the security is just, but again, it's not that important because everything is focused on the financial metrics and processing and things of that nature. And at the same time, the ISO body is still looking at a point in time. And the value that SOC 2 brings is that it's looking from a period of time that those controls are in place. And if somebody said, okay, but let's do ISO, but over time, it's more prescriptive. I think the barrier to entry is still about the same, but I feel like the value goes a long way because the company or the auditor doing the audit is putting their name, their logo on that certificate, even though that ISO doesn't give you certificate themselves. There's no report, but they're putting themselves on the line saying, yep, this company has met all these objectives. And if we can repeat that in a way that we show that those controls go over time, if they're doing ISO audit every 3 months or something as ridiculous like that, I think that would solve some of the headaches that we currently have where that value, that vibe check, that the positioning of that auditing firm externally goes a long way. And I would say that some of the bigger firms are selling themselves on their name. At the end of the day, you're still going to pay $300 for somebody straight out of college to do your audit, but you store that logo and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy because you have, I'm not going to name names, but you have a fancy logo on your software.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what is the right level of pushback at the same time? So there's so many, the other part is that for ISO, you get a report of process improvement. Here's the things that you can do better, things that we expect to do next time. We're going to focus in on access controls because you had a lot of miss there. So make sure that you get your stuff sorted. Whereas for SOC 2 is more of everything is okay. You danced around, your legs are tired, your tap shoes are ruined because you tap dance all over this place, but we're going to go. See you next year. Have fun. And then you're not left with the takeaway to make things better. You're given a stamp of everything that you're doing is okay. And it puts that maturity, it staggers it because ISO is constantly asking you to do more and more, do things better, more automated, check more things, more frequency, more everything. And there's an expectation from the auditor to see you thrive and expand your program, where I feel like SOC 2, unless you're going to do another set of criteria, you're basically stagnant because if it works last year, let's change the dates and call it a day because this policy is the same. Or let's just spit out the same report from the system and call it a day. There's nothing to motivate the GRC team to push their security team, IT team, HR, finance, whomever, to do things better. And I think that's one of the things in my world, I would love to see the industry grow. So that way you have some way of to gauge maturity of an entity. Have they gone from just common controls to processing, integrity, and availability? What have they done to show that they have grown as a business, that they have expanded their security program to capture more, so that I, as a buyer, feel warm and fuzzies about their whole program, knowing that it's not going to blow up in my face.
It's not just stagnant. Yeah.
You need to use fine assurance for your next SOC 2 audit. We need to change that.
Nice.
Us. Use me.
Plug.
Use me. Punishment.
It's a nice plug. I've been plugging a little episode. Oh,
No, but I do think we have to keep
wrap
going.
it.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up. But where can people find you? Where's the best way to get in contact with you, Z?
Oh, I am posting
Things
lots
on
of things on LinkedIn. I have given up on every other social network, but I enjoy my putting hot takes and replying with gifs and just calling out people on LinkedIn. So find me on there.
It's
You guys
a
are besties.
you call it a GIF. No, it's not a GIF. It's a GIF. We're gonna leave it as that. And
Yeah.
we're
All right,
ending
time to
episode.
unfollow somebody.
It's one letter away from gift. It's a GIF.
Oh my gosh, we are ending this episode now, but we have to stay on here till Elliot. Well, I
Z,
guess you guys can
thank
go.
you
I
so
can
much
stay
for
on too.
joining our craziness. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for your insights. I have no idea what we're going to title this. Maybe 7-minute abs.
I think it should wait.
love
It should be titled. I had the title, but I can't remember. Dang, and I had a good one too when you were talking.
Maybe
I
it'll
forgot what you
come
said.
too.
7-minute abs. I love it. Like, it makes no sense. And somebody's going to be like, I don't know what this means, but let's click on it. I love it. Let's go with that.
100%. Yeah.
All right.
We're-
I mean,
we're
I'm
put up
texting
with it,
Elliot.
right?
He's
All right,
gotta
thanks,
come
y'all.
back.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to GRC Uncensored, the podcast, where Troy and Kendra know their shit, and our producer just talks shit. To learn more about GRC, go to grcuncensored.com, subscribe to our newsletter, or join our community on Reddit. Viewpoints expressed during the show do not reflect the brands, employers, or companies of our hosts, guests, or sponsors.